Welcome back to Cerebral Voice. We're in the summer. Lots of people are traveling, work conferences, personal travel, all kinds of things. So we don't have a full crew today. In fact, we don't even have a regular panel discussion today. But Joe from Hindsightless is going to help me answer some listener calls, and we're going to discuss a couple aspects of role-playing. So I hope you enjoy it.
Most unlikely of villains, schools of playing and for pause. Does it talk? Does it know how? Does it bottle? Does it meow? In the lair of the Cerebral Voice, ever show him so much more. The legal brains at the door.
Okay, so I have Joe from Hindsightless with me. I'm, as always, Jason from the Nerds RPG Variety Cast. And we have some listener mail that we're going to answer. You ready for this, Joe?
I'm ready. I'm excited. It's good to be back. It's been a while since I've been on Cerebral Voice, so I'm glad we had a chance to, connect for a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Now, some of these are messages for shows you weren't on, but that's okay. I think you're caught up in listening, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then we're good. Here we go. No, we don't. Hold on one second. Folks, don't mind the man behind the curtain as we queue up this. First message is this.
Pink Phantom here. I was listening to your episode about gunpowder and do you want it in your campaign. And I started leafing through the old archives here and found something I wrote about black powder. It's explosive and corrosive, making it susceptible to fire and acid damage. It degrades in large quantities and over the long term, although alchemical treatment can counter that. When it's set off, it does fire and acid damage. Weapons, fire sticks, are compromised after firing once, and a second use could result in an explosion. But it does do a large amount of damage with one shot. So, if I were going to have gunpowder in a campaign, that's probably how I would do it. So there'd be a fair amount of upkeep, but it would still be powerful.
Okay, Pink Phantom taking the Anchor Sphere by storm.
That's right.
Yeah. So, those are all good points. I guess it depends how much upkeep and how much tracking you want to do with your gunpowder. You were on the episode for gunpowder, actually.
Yep.
We talked about it. And I'm inclined to go with a lot of what he's saying there. I think that's all good. And I also like the idea of guns having a chance to explode and misfire and stuff like that. But at some point, you probably are tracking too many things.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it comes down to how much upkeep you want to keep track of. But like his ideas sounded pretty, I like those are all cool house rules. It's susceptible to acid and fire damage and stuff. I like that stuff. That doesn't seem like too bad, but you just got to remember, okay, this character has, black powder on them and he just got hit with a fireball. So he's going to take fireball damage, then blow up. And if you can remember that, that's no problem. And that sounds fun.
Yeah. Oh, no, definitely. Yeah. I think that has to be part of the trade-off when you're using gunpowder. I also like the idea that, it's loud. So potentially, whether it's wandering monsters or alerting guards or, whatever, but other creatures in that area, or if you're like right now I'm playing in your Wrath of the Righteous game and we're, holding the structure with multiple stories. If somebody lit off a firearm in the, when we're on the ground floor, the people on the second floor are going to hear that. They're going to know we're there.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing about firearm. You can't really be stealthy. Well, you can be until you use it. And then there goes stealth.
Yeah, definitely. So very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Pink Phantom. Yeah, we appreciate the call. And let's go to the next comment.
Hey, Cerebral Voice, Spencer here, just calling in to share my appreciation for the show. Really enjoying what you're doing, some great topics. What we had? Gunpowder, player tropes, movies. The mental health one was particularly interesting to me. Just great minds talking about great topics, and I've really been enjoying it. Something to learn in every episode. And I also appreciate how difficult it must be getting a group of folks together to record an episode. So, really, really appreciate what you're doing. Loving the show. Long may it continue. Take care.
Okay, Spencer, also known as Free Throw, Keep Off the Borderlands. Great podcast, just past the 200th mark, or 200th episode over there. Now, he had appeared once as a guest on the Purple Worm podcast.
Correct.
Yeah. We need to see if we can loop him in as a guest on Cerebral Voice if he's...
I feel like that's a thing that needs to happen, because I pretty much love everything that Spencer says.
Yep, very much so. Not a whole lot to respond other than say thank you. We appreciate
absolutely. Thanks. That's super nice, Spence. I appreciate that. That's cool.
Okay. And we're going to move on to the next one. And this is the last call we have for this section.
Hey, fellas. Hey, BJ, man. Thanks for letting me know about the Eldritch Tales sheet. I had no idea, honestly. I've never used Fantasy Grounds, but now apparently I have to go and check it out. Pretty cool, man. And royalties? Shocking. No, of course not. Also, on Blood Meridian, the book that it is at least partly based on is called My Confession, The Recollections of a Rogue by, what was it, Samuel Chamberlain. You guys reminded me of when I was listening to the episode, and I went and looked for it. You can download it for free on archive.org. It's almost as long as the novel, I think. But yeah, I think I'm going to take a look at that. All right, later.
Okay, very cool. Of course, that's Joe from Raven God Games.
Yeah.
And so he was, I don't know, that was from the latest episode, or the last episode, as this one come, well, the last bonus episode before this one. And that's where BJ and Carl were answering calls. And they mentioned the Cormac McCarthy book, Blood Meridian. And that's what Joe was talking about there. And then prior to that, BJ had mentioned how in Fantasy Grounds, there is a Sword and Wizardry module now, and they include a character sheet for Eldritch Tales, which of course is a Raven God game. So.
Okay. Interesting. Have you read Blood Meridian?
I have not. No.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. So
I've read. Have you read any McCarthy? Cormac?
I haven't. No.
Okay, I've read a few of his. I've read The Road. That was pretty good. Did he write No Country for Old Men?
Yes.
I read that. That was good. That book is good. That movie is good too.
Yeah, I've seen the movie. I haven't read the book.
They're very, very similar, which is amazing. You don't see that a lot in adaptations.
Have you seen the movie The Road? Is that the same?
I haven't seen the movie.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if that was also tight. Yeah, Blood Meridian, Sutri, No Country for Old Men, The Road, the Border Trilogy, which is All the Pretty Horses, The Crossing, and Cities of the Plain.
Okay.
They're the big books that he's
They're
his quote unquote notable works.
I've liked the McCarthy books that I've read.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the two books that I've read of his, I was like, oh, these are both pretty good.
Yeah, he's got a really good reputation, and well, one of these days I'll get around to it.
Yeah,
but so
like Easterns.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So Joe.
Yes.
Here is. I don't know if you've. I'm going to pop something on you here.
Oh,
I don't know if you've listened to my latest podcast or not, but at the time we record, but I did an interview, and I had James from Grog Talk on, and he gave his answer of why fantasy is so popular, why fantasy is the most popular RPG genre. And for the listeners' benefit, we're going to play that now.
Ooh.
Why do you think fantasy is the dominant genre for RPGs? Why do you think? Is it just because D&D was first, or is there something special about fantasy over, say, space? I mean, you guys, did a lot with Traveler, Star Frontiers, all these different genres, but we always get pulled back to fantasy. Well, yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think for me, and I think for most people, and I guess we have to start with fantasy, as in your traditional fantasy land, D&D, and well, first of all, fantasy can cover almost everything. Everything else feels like, if you're in space and all of a sudden you're minus Spelljammer, if you pull out Wands of Fireballs, you're like, okay, now you're just a mashup. Whereas if you have guns in D&D, that doesn't feel like a mashup. That feels like the Renaissance era. So you can incorporate a lot more genres. So it can be all things to all people. It is that fantasy genre has captured the ability of being otherworldly that others do not, in that when you're in space, for whatever reason, you feel still mortal. And if you want to play that game, that's great. Call of Cthulhu is a wonderful game, but you're not a superhero. And for some reason, we cannot imagine ourselves as superheroes as much. Whereas, the Marvel thing, for whatever reason, I mean, there's people who love Marvel, but it's not the predominant role playing. Mm-hmm. That the role playing, and that's why I think old school role playing for me is more interesting, because you go from the zero to hero. You're not starting out as a hero and becoming a superhero. And so I think fantasy has that idea of primordial good and evil. There's initially no grayness. Now, of course, you can delve into that if you want. The heroic acts, we have been bred with the stories of heroism. The knight saves the princess, slays the dragon, saves the town. And it's not been, modern stories have been influenced with nuance and grittiness that we don't want. That's why Star Wars is so powerful versus Star Trek. And, Star Trek is very popular, but Star Wars is in my opinion, way more popular because it's very binary. You got the bad guys are these and the good guys are these. And when they try to make it gray, a lot of people don't like it because they like people like their orcs evil. Not because they can't be good orcs. It's just there is certainty in that. So I think the combination of certainty of mission, seeing yourself being able to progress in a way that makes sense. I mean, if you're a super soldier, unless you're going to use bionics, it just doesn't feel natural, which sounds ridiculous. So I think all those confluences come together to make it the predominant one. And then, I think D&D being the first out of the chute for being a role-playing game helped with that. But, Lord of the Rings was popular before D&D. Mm-hmm. I think that's why it's become predominant. At least that's my take on it.
Okay. So what do you think? I did think that was a pretty good answer. The idea of, we talked about certainty of mission, right? Now that can change on the game, but typically, and I know in the games I've played that you've run, which isn't saying all Pathfinders like this, but it's pretty, at least the adventure paths I'm familiar with, which aren't very many, you pretty much know who your allies are, or you have a mission, right? Yes. And you have a clear set of bad guys that you're going after.
Yep.
And, it's not a gray area per se, but not saying there isn't gray in there. We've come across situations playing Wrath of the Righteous where something might look evil initially, and you might have to parlay with them and figure out, are these good guys or these bad guys, or is this somebody under mind control, or whatever. But generally, it's like Wrath of the Righteous. You're fighting demons.
Right. Like that's one of the things I love so much about this particular adventure path is you're fighting demons. Like, these are super evil, demonic beings that are trying to murder the whole world. You got to stop them. Go. Like, it is that clear dichotomy of good and evil. Like he said, it's comforting. It's nice to not have to worry about it that much.
Right. And then the zero to hero thing, of course, is in there, and we're seeing our characters grow in power. Again, since we mentioned Wrath of the Righteous and Pathfinder, which is just D&D. I mean, it's effectively what 3.75 or whatever. It's
Right.
you know, it's the clear evolution of the third edition D&D. So and a lot of people like that. And then of course once you hit especially the WotC era of D&D, you get in the character build mini game, which a lot of people like. You know, not everybody, but a lot of people really enjoy that and be able to do that. And then you can either do it where you've plotted the character's, you know, trajectory out from the very beginning, or each level, oh, look at this smorgasbord of things. What do I want now?
Yeah.
You know, it gives options. So,
and WotC sort of went away from that a little bit with 5th edition. You know, it's a lot less dependent on character build. 5th edition is than say 3.5.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because feats are optional in 5th edition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. But I mean, Pathfinder's kind of kept with Pathfinder 2. Well, not kind of. They have very definitely kept it with Pathfinder 2. It's still a huge feature in there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. Well, yeah, because Pathfinder wouldn't be Pathfinder without it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like it would be something different. But yeah, no, I thought that was a great answer.
Yeah. So very cool. Is there anything you need to preach to the people, Joe?
I don't. Yeah, no, nothing. Everybody's out there doing cool stuff, man. Build your characters together. But other than that, everybody's cool.
Yeah. So that's been a recent topic too. And that's definitely a change that with online gaming. I kind of feel it's an online gaming thing, where people build their characters in isolation. I mean, I'm sure it happened before that, but typically your groups got together. So you'd have, when you're playing in person, so you'd have the chance to make your characters together.
Yeah, we didn't. Like when I came back to Pathfinder, everyone made character like I said, when I first got joined for the first time ever, they said, yeah, make a 12th level character, peace out, you know, go home and make your character, come back next week. Like all those guys, everyone made their characters in like secret and stuff. So yeah, I've always encouraged it where people should do it together, but that's how you guys did it. Cause that's how we did it as kids.
We did it together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so that's interesting. So that initial game, when you came back and go build your character. So did the only person that see that character other than you was that the GM? Did you guys not know what the other PCs could do in the party, or was that kind of a played up like you didn't know each other's abilities? Or
yeah, like I didn't know what the other people were playing. I didn't know anything about the game. You know?
Yeah, so I guess you were at a disadvantage. But I mean, was it one of those things where people were like, oh, I can do this and this, or
yeah,
like during combat, did you work together, or was it more you didn't play as a group alone, or I guess what I'm asking?
Correct. We did not. We played as a group because those sessions were also like 7-8 hours long. So there was a lot of like cross talk during fights and stuff like, okay, what can you do? What can you do? That kind of stuff. So we learned it as we played, but as far as the creation goes, I don't think they built theirs together either.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of the games I've played in online have been, build your character in isolation, right? Even sadly, even to some degree, your games that I played in have been that out of necessity, I guess. But yeah,
I'm there like to help and tell you like a little bit about what the other characters are doing.
And I mean, and there is something, especially if you're doing like, James mentioned, like the 0 to hero kind of thing. If you're doing an adventure path, or whatever the WotC equivalent is, where if you're starting off at first level and you're going to go up all the way, there's something to be said for not knowing, like Wrath of the Righteous. Everybody came to town and they came for a festival. I'm not giving any big spoilers away. It's how the adventure opens.
Yep.
Adventure path opens, but none of the characters really knew each other prior to that. So in that adventure path, it actually is probably sensible to make them in isolation to some degree, other than, we need a spellcaster. I'm going to make spellcaster. That's cool. But not know the details. And that way, as you're playing the game, you're going to learn. And so that's more interesting for everybody, is you get to kind of role play meeting each other and play out, the neat things and all that. But I'm playing Pathfinder 2 right now with Carl, the gemologist presents, and he's running the Abomination Vaults. And in that game, it actually starts with a cutscene. The party already assembled is there at the gates of the keep, or the dungeon, effectively, right? So in that game, really, you probably do need to make them all together, and everybody should know each other and everything, because you're not going to be a bunch of strangers all of a sudden you're in front of the gates. You're going to know each other prior to walking up to the gates, right? So because it opens up immediately in front of the gates, in that case, doing the mystery thing to the other players doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah. So it really depends how your campaign starts, I guess, how, whether you want the PCs to know each other or meet each other and learn each other throughout the game. So
totally.
Yeah. And I think it can be fun to meet each other throughout the game if you have enough time, and if it's going to be a longer running, multiple session game. That interaction of meeting and feeling each other out, I think, is an interesting prospect. I guess if you're into adventure games like Taylor is, that might not totally fit his style, but the way we've done it with Pathfinder in your game has been really great. When somebody's unfortunately died in the game and they make up their new character, then we get to role play out meeting that new character, which is always fun.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I like that stuff. It's good times.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Joe, cool talking to you, and I will talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Talk to you later, Jason.
A Nerd Central broadcast, Cerebral podcast. Let's savor all the flavors from the sign of Capstone. The all stars and podcast, Cerebral podcast. You're counting down your last as you admire that mom. The sun is burning teeth, oh, so it's stepping your brain. Baby, all I need is the sensations of fake. And from all I understand, that's what it is. Don't look now, the Cerebral Voice coming, and all that's left is to try to remember running. You can bring it, you can pile, you can bomb in any order. Just another brain or we will toss us running for the border. Just a snack, like a one, can I stutter? Here and here, always better buzz. You can eat on a baby, and his dust is never faded. Was it savoring the flavor of the memories it created?